Around 1969, the sport of paddle tennis was introduced by some Mexican guy called Lorenco. So since then, the sport has grown, but it grew exponentially, particularly in areas of Spain and in Europe. So as one of the fastest growing sports in the world, not just as a record sport, but in the entirety of the sports sector, be it tennis, be it badminton, be it football, paddle tennis is arguably at this very moment the fastest growing sport in the world. It is now introduced in Botswana. We've got a few courts around in the country to really help and introduce the sport to the locals and see to it that in the next few years it will be one of the best performing sports code, as it is with the interest of Botswana National Sport Commission to see local sport playing a crucial role in terms of the economic development of this country. Paddle sport is coming through with strong intentions to ensure that they play a role in that aspect. So at this very moment, I'm delighted and honored to be joined by the 10BY20 founder and director, that is Ali Mahomed, who's really invested quite a fortune to this point to ensure that this sport really is available to all those that reside in this country. To come and unpack why exactly has he decided to go in the route of paddle tennis. He has had a short stint in football, so now we get to understand really what the sport is about, or what is it that he wants to do in the sport. Mahomed, let me take this time to welcome you to Botswana Connect.
Thank you so much, Sidi. I'm delighted to be here, and from our brief discussions before, it's always good to be with you.
Yeah, and always an honor and always a pleasure. We're talking about paddle tennis. It's a sport that really, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, wasn't really known here in the country. Where have you come across with the sport, and why have you decided to start it here?
It actually started 2 years ago. You know, I was playing paddle tennis in Cape Town. I was there on holiday, and someone just told me, why don't you take this to Botswana? And I was like, this could never work in Botswana. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? In Botswana, we don't have a lot of opportunities to grow in sport, especially from the private sector. We don't do a lot to be able to grow a sporting code in our country. And then with the help of the 10BY20 franchise from South Africa, Mr. Adrian Jacobs, he came with the belief and he told me his vision, and that's what it was. We said, let's open the courts, and he said to me, the people will come, and did they come? We have grown a strong community. We've grown to multiple sites, and we're taking the sport to where we want it to. We're not there yet, but we're building it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting that the interest that is being really attracted by the sport locally is rapidly growing. One would be wondering, what is it that is different from paddle tennis maybe to lawn tennis, which has been in existence for quite a while, but hasn't really attracted as much attention as paddle tennis has in the past 2 years?
You see, I think the thing is with paddle, it's similar to golf, where it becomes more of a social game. So people from any skill type, from any level, the barrier of entry is very easy to get into. With paddle, you can compete at the highest stage, but also play with my father or my kids. So everybody loves it. It becomes a family sport. It becomes a sport where you can go out and enjoy your day, or you can play on a very competitive level. So yeah, it's to the individual.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you mentioned the age difference, because recently the government has been grappling with non-communicable diseases, and I believe this is a very seriously physically engaging sport which really will work for a lot of people.
Yeah, so also you're saying with the young people, what we've done is we started with the private schools where they've adapted it as afternoon activities. They come and play in the afternoons. And my vision for 2025 is to go to the public schools and be able to offer it to them for free, maybe a school at a time, to be able to, that's where the raw talent is. And that's where we need to nurture the talent. And even if we don't get a superstar out of there, we can keep them fit. And if we keep them fit, they stay healthier. So that's our vision for 2025, to try and expose our clubs to these younger people, to be able to create good lifestyle choices for them.
Yeah, mass participation is always a welcome development in any sport when you're talking about growing and nurturing and identifying, of course, the talent to grow the sport. Now let's get here in terms of affiliation and maybe alignment with the Botswana Tennis Association and or with Botswana National Sport Commission. What is the current status of paddle in Botswana?
So paddle is not registered as an association yet or as a society yet. We all individual companies that are operating these paddle courts, but we are registered with a bigger body in South Africa, but we want to be able to create our own, to be able to regulate it. We have good relationships with BNSC. They've been very good to us. We have good relationships with BTA. So we just need to find the right alignment to be able to say, this is who we are and this is what we want to do and this is how we want to grow. And I'm sure everything will come together. It's still early days for us. We're only 2 years into it, but I think it's about time that we take the next step with BNSC, BTA, and be able to form a structure that will be able to grow our sport.
Yeah. Any plans maybe in terms of the time frames to draft that proposition? Because I understand you have had a few sit-downs with the leaders from Botswana Tennis Association and of course from Botswana National Sport Commission. What is the feedback with regards to this new development? And like I'm saying, are there any time frames to say we need to draft a proposal?
I won't say there is a specific time frame. We're happy to go ahead with it. We're happy to go with BTA or with BNSC to form a new sporting code. It's up to BNSC to tell us this is the direction we need to take and we will follow that. We don't have any hard and fast rules that this is what we want and this is how we want to do it. We're happy to help or to go by whatever BNSC say. They are our mother body, so they will direct us.
Yeah, there's been conversations around the paddle sport that soon it could be an Olympic sport. So really 10x20 and Botswana Paddle Association really has to get in line with Botswana Tennis Association and of course the BNSC, such that when that opportunity arises and
you know, you're saying that paddle hopefully in the next Olympics will be a sport,
yeah,
right? And we've just had two young boys, Mikhail Rozenkhan and Mohamed Bujani, who've got international recognition, got sponsorship leaders and Babolat. It's major. I don't think we would have ever dreamed of something like that. Within 2 years to have two young boys be able to get such good recognition. And also a lot of players that were playing tennis that have started playing paddle who are exceptional. They're probably the best in the country. So when that time comes, when we want to go to the Olympics, we have to have our ducks in a row so we can represent Team Botswana.
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned that there already has been those that have made a serious impact at global stage. One would be wondering about the competitions because the sport is newly introduced. One would be wondering where are they competing and how does one get to be part of such competitions?
So basically we have a 10x20 team that we compete. We try and compete at least once a month in South Africa. We take them down to compete in competitions. But we host regular tournaments in Botswana every month, men's tournament, teen tournament, just so we can improve our own level. But when we go to South Africa to compete, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Mikhail and Mo Bujani, they won a men's tournament. We've had other winners also before, but we just try to take them to South Africa so that they can understand the level they need to get to. We also bring coaches from South Africa to Botswana, international coaches. We had some from Portugal recently to be able to increase our level. Because if we compete with the same pool all the time, we won't become better. So we have to expose ourselves to better players so we know that there's different levels to the game. And that's what we try and do for the players.
Yeah, earlier on you mentioned that you have already been able to strike a partnership with private schools. What's the arrangement if maybe my child wants to come through and be part of maybe your club?
So we don't have a sports membership per se, but what we do is for the private schools that have contacted us is we give it to them for afternoon activities where they come on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon and they play for an hour. The school covers it for them, right? But what I want to introduce this year, I said about the public schools as well, is give them an hour, maybe different schools every week, something like that. But for your child, if they want to come and play, we have kids clinics, we have coaching for kids, or they can have free play. So we don't charge people a membership. Because I feel like if I charge you like a gym membership, you'll come once, twice, 3 times, and then maybe you get bored of it and you don't want to do it anymore. But now you're paying every month for it. You come, you book your slot, and that's it. There's no commitment from you. But I assure you, once you play once, you'll always come back. That's how addictive it is.
Yeah, it's very, very addictive. Let's now talk about the development of the sport. You have invested in the infrastructure development. Let's talk about the capacity of administrators and, of course, coaches. Like you have highlighted that some have come from Portugal to come and lay a roadmap. What is the current setup to ensure that we are able to have enough administrators to really go out there and introduce sport even in different areas of this country?
So currently at the moment we have over 20 staff. Our average age of all of our staff is between 23 and 24 years old. So we have a young group of people, all our Botswana. We've had people who have a good education and have come in to help us. And we've also had people who don't have an education but have joined our team and have grown into managerial positions. So we try and work on both ways. Our GM is a lady, her name is Peo Tebe. She runs all of our clubs for us. She's 24 years old, right? And she's amazing at what she does. She's our main administrator. And then if you look on the coaching side, is tennis players who have come, who have not exceeded or excelled in tennis per se. They've done well, but have come into paddle and have become brilliant players, but have also developed a living off coaching in our setup. So what we've done is we've exposed them to coaches in South Africa who have helped them develop coaching models, and they are they're the heartbeat of our community.
Yeah. How many clubs currently are there in Botswana that you are aware of? Because there is a need for people to start forming clubs in different areas to enhance a strong competition here in the country.
So including our three, there are 6 clubs. So we have 3 and there's another 3 clubs.
Yeah. So has there been any thoughts around maybe organizing a local competition just to see the level at which we are at this present moment?
So I think the other clubs are fairly new and they're still developing, and hopefully within the near future we'd be able to have like inter-club competitions and things like that. But I think they're still developing, or they've just opened it recently within the last month or 2 months. So they still need to develop a community and players to be able to compete. For ours, we can host a competition. We have one next week. We have 30 teams competing. If I post a message within 10 minutes, it's already sold out. So the appetite to compete is there. But we just need to be able to open it up to other clubs and say, okay, you know what? We have a 10x20 team. You have your team. Let's compete that way.
Yeah, you're talking about the interest around the sport, and one will be wondering just how expensive is it maybe for one to build a court or maybe for one to buy a racket or even equipment that is needed to be able to play the sport.
Okay, so to build a court, I'm not going to get into. Anybody could build a court. It doesn't cost a lot to be able to open a center, right? Yes, like any other business, you have to put the foundations in and everything, no problem.
Yeah.
To build the communities, that's what we do. We don't build courts, we build communities, and that's what I focus on. But if the barrier to entry is not that expensive, you can come to any of our sites, you can book a court for 120 pula in the day, for 4 people, so that's 30 pula per person. You can rent a racket from us. If you can't afford to rent the racket, we make exceptions for people who can't afford it to be able to take a racket from us and be able to play. That's it. So for 30 pula is your barrier to entry. And you can play for 1 hour. That's what it would cost you.
Yeah, I was talking about also the value proposition in terms of maybe a business community, let's say Khanti, for example, or Tabong, for example, where maybe one would be thinking, if I erect a facility around here for the people in that community or that region to be able to have access to playing the sport, how much are we looking at to be able to?
So I think if you want to do it properly, you want to put a good facility together, you're looking at about 1.5 million pula to 2 million pula. I think you will be able to construct a perfect facility, an amazing facility for that amount of money. You could do it for cheaper, but I wouldn't recommend it because you want to create a sport where it's played properly. You don't want to give people a facility that's not at 100%, where they could get injured or where your facility deteriorates over time. You want to be able to build it properly and keep it at that standard.
Yeah. Now let's talk about relations, because this is a fairly newly introduced sport, particularly here in the country. And you have mentioned, and rightly so, that you've been able to have a strong competition out in South Africa. What other relations do you have? Earlier on, you mentioned a coach from Portugal came through. What other relations have you been able to strike to ensure that we are able to have all that is needed for us to grow the sport in Botswana?
So locally, the relationships we formed are with First Capital Bank. They came on board when nobody believed in us, and they go with their motto, and I'm not sure if you know, belief comes first. And that resonates with our whole identity. They believed in us, and we were able to grow the sport from where it was to where it is now. Moving on from that, if we look at on an international perspective, South Africa, we have the 10BY20 brand that supports us. We have Babolat and Adidas in South Africa that supports us. And then there's an academy in Portugal called Pace Academy, where they send 2 coaches to help us. Hopefully in April this year, we're going to take some boys to Spain to go and train in Spain. So we do have connections all over the world now through paddle. And that's what I want to be able to take. It's not, for us, it's not about making money. It's about taking our players to the world and be able to compete on the world stage.
Yeah, we're talking about taking our players to the world, and some of them, and most of them, definitely will need coverage. They will need to be introduced to Botswana, to be icons, to be role models. Just how closely are we working maybe with the media? Because the better they understand the sport, it means the community will also better understand exactly what we are talking about when we say paddle tennis.
100%. I don't think we've done enough with the media, and that's why I invite you to bring a host of media. We have an open day for a media day where you guys are able to play, to understand the sport, maybe ask questions relating to the sport, and be able to grow it within the media, not just so that you can cover us, but you can also understand the sport better, because it takes, yes, it's like tennis, but there's a different understanding to it. So if you are able to understand it better, you'd be able to cover it better, and then it would grow the sport in Botswana for the better.
Yeah. In your own perspective, from what you have seen to this point, what exactly needs to be done to ensure that we are able to accelerate our development processes as a sport?
So, with other sports, I'll refer back to football. Everyone says the only way we can grow football is funding. In paddle, it's not that. We don't need the funding. We need the people. We want the local Botswana to come and say, you know what, we've never played a sport before, but we want to play this. It doesn't matter your size, it doesn't matter your height, anybody can play. But we need that interest from the local Botswana to say, you know what, we want to play the sport, we believe we can be dedicated to it, and that's what I want. I want that person to come to me and say, you know what, I will put in the hours, but I want to excel in the sport. I promise you, we will back that person, and we will help them grow. That's what we need.
Yeah. It's a very unique sport. For the very first time in my life, I've heard a sport code here in Botswana saying, no, we actually are not really interested in getting funds, but we just want the participation and presence of individuals who can come on board. So lastly, someone might be watching in other different areas of the country. How quickly, how soon, how is it possible that in the near future, maybe your company or your club could really be now spread around the country?
So we're looking at the possibilities of opening in places like Francistown, Mahomed, or we're looking at to find partners. You see, the main thing about our clubs is we run them. We don't have people that run them. We make sure, with myself and my partners, we make sure that we're there all the time, we're on the ground. So we need to find good partners in these areas to be able to partner with, to be able to grow paddle. That's our whole idea behind it. If there's anyone in these areas that is keen on doing it, reach out to us, send us a message on Instagram or Facebook, and we will contact you. We will come and see the sites that you have in mind, and we'll be able to grow something there. But for us to do it by ourselves will be impossible in those areas.
Yeah. Corporate social responsibilities for companies out there. Paddle sport is here, and it is here to stay. So if you are in and around Botswana, you can get in contact with those that are in charge to really drive through the development of this very sport. Mahomed, it's been a pleasure. Your last words to Botswana as we introduce or we reintroduce the sport of paddle.
My last words would be, if you don't understand the sport, come and play it. Once you play it, you'll never leave.
Yeah.
That's, I can guarantee you. It's one sport anybody could get into. So just come and try it out. If you are unable to afford to come and play, send me a message. I'll help you out.
Yeah, no, we definitely will make it that pedal tennis becomes a sport of our leisure time. So thank you so very much, Ali Mahomed, to have made it through to enlighten us about this very interesting sport.
Thank you, Siti. I really appreciate it.
That was Ali Mahomed, the 10x20 director here. We're talking about a newly introduced sport that is pedal tennis. Even if you haven't heard about it, you can just go into the internet and get to read about it. Really an interesting sport which could become an Olympic sport in the near future. Well, that is how we come to the end of our conversations for this hour. Your news will be following shortly.